if we asked most Liverpool fans the one player they'd want to stay, it is Virgil probably. Virgil is the one. So I think it's really positive news, and it hopefully sets us up for a big summer.
Yeah, Joel, I agree entirely with Mike. I felt for a while that if you looked at the three and you picked the one you most wanted to stay, notwithstanding the long term, but looking at Liverpool's immediate present. So at the moment, we're a team, we're very hopeful we win a Premier League, but we want to build on that and go on to win other trophies. So the immediate present I see as the most important thing. And of the three, although Mo's had the season of his life up until about 2 months ago, and although Trent is young and could be better yet to come from him, Virgil in the here and now is consistently world class. And despite his age, it's not hard to envisage him remaining at that level for 2 more years, I would say. With a forward like Mo, it's harder to gauge whether the point at which they fall off a cliff. Good central defenders don't tend to fall off cliffs in the same way as good forwards. So I'm with Mike in thinking that if we can get Virgil done, that's a big relief because he's the pick of the bunch in terms of priorities.
Yeah, I think it is massive signing Van Dijk, and for me as well, he's always been priority number one. It's twofold really. Obviously, one, he's the club captain, who's the main leader at the club, and he has been a commanding presence on the squad even when he wasn't captain. He's always been part of the leadership group ever since he's been in there. Number two, what he still delivers on the pitch. He has been, in the main, largely consistent all season. He's been brilliant. He's had one of his better seasons in the Liverpool shirt after a couple of seasons where people have questioned him and have thought he was on the slide down. I think at 22-23, the season before last. Last season, in the main, he was okay, but again, had his moments. So I think this season he's been far more consistent than the previous 2 seasons. And it's just that continuity. You need the continuity of your club captain sticking around for a little bit longer and not leaving like this, where people want him to stay and him going when we still think he's got a lot to offer. If he didn't have much to offer, or if we'd seen a few bad performances from him this season where a decline was clear, then maybe parting would be such easier, like Man City are doing with De Bruyne. However, I think Van Dijk's still got a lot to offer. I think there's plenty of examples over the last 10 to 15 years, if not going further back over the past 20, 30 years, or even throughout time, where centre-backs can still offer something in their mid to late 30s. The instance example I think of is Giorgio Chiellini, because in the Euros when Italy won it, him and Leonardo Bonucci at the back were brilliant for Italy and were arguably the main reason why they won it, because their defence was so solid. And I think around that Euros, Chiellini was about 36, 37 maybe. So I still think he's got a lot to offer. I still think going forward, he will help the transition of the Liverpool side, which we'll probably come on to shortly, in terms of who we need to buy and sell in other positions. So I think if we've got our main centre-back staying, and regardless of who is going to partner him next season or who is going to play further ahead of him, I think that's a good basis to work from. And we know that we have a player who's been around when he's won trophies with us, who is a great role model for his teammates, and he can take us forward into what we hope will be an exciting new era.
Yeah, Josh, the reason I think most would are agreeing so far, maybe you'll disagree, the Van Dijk's priorities, because just of how unique he is and how much of a problem it would give us if he suddenly decided he was going to play in America or Saudi or wherever next year. It would just be such a major problem. I think if Mo pulled the rug from under us at this stage and went and said he was going to Saudi or wherever, it wouldn't be good. But I think our transfer committee people will be well advanced in their idea of a Mo Salah succession plan, in as much as I think they're probably targeting elite forwards this summer. And we're going to come on to discuss options in a minute. But I think although everyone thinks, oh, we could do with another centre half, I don't think anyone thinks there's another Mo Salah out there. Do you know what I mean? It's not Mo Salah, sorry, another Virgil van Dijk out there. Not readily. With a forward like Salah, I think you can compensate by buying 2 good ones. With someone like Van Dijk, I just don't think you can compensate his loss lightly at all, if at all.
I think the problem is with all 3 contracts, they're all such unique football players in so many ways. So I think the Virgil van Dijk is the greatest centre-half I've ever seen. I think Mo Salah is probably one of the most consistent goal scorers I've seen, certainly at Liverpool, if not in world football in general. Trent Alexander-Arnold is, as we all well know, is a unicorn of a football player. Really, that sort of ability to be, quarterback and such a strong playmaker. Like it's such. I've talked about in a couple of shows recently, but it's such a unorthodox level of creativity that Trent Alexander-Arnold provides that I don't think you can find elsewhere in world football, really. So all three of them represent quite unique propositions. And earlier in the season, I have to be honest, I was saying that Van Dijk was the one of the three that I would, probably mind the least if he left. And that was operating from a very high bar. Like I'd have been gutted if any of them left, really. And I'm still going to be gutted when, as we all believe it looks like now, Trent Alexander-Arnold will leave in the summer. But Virgil van Dijk was the one who I thought, age wasn't on his side. We've seen the centre halves in the past how their legs can just sort of go in an instant, it feels like, whereas Trent, because he is still in his peak years and he represents that's such a unique proposition for Liverpool. And then Mo Salah, because basically of the condition Mo Salah keeps himself in. And it's not to say that Virgil van Dijk doesn't keep himself in that same physical shape as Mo Salah, really. It was more so that Salah is just about to have his best season of his career, effectively, besides the first season he came to Liverpool, and he's 32 years old. So to me, Mo Salah shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. But the problem for me and that take earlier in the season about wanting Van Dijk not sort of wanting Van Dijk, but being readily willing to accept that Van Dijk might be the one of the three who goes more so than the other two, is that Virgil's had such a good season as well. You could argue Virgil's had one of his best seasons at Liverpool too. That's how good Liverpool have been, is how good Virgil van Dijk has been. He's proven once again that he is one of the best centre-halves in world football currently, and one of the best centre-halves of all time for me. I go back to that Carragher quote earlier in the season where he talks about, Virgil, it almost looks like he's playing a different game at times. And I know there's always opposition fans who are trying to prove that isn't the case, and sometimes he looks more human, and we've seen a couple more of those human, highlights almost or lowlights for him in recent weeks. But I think that's because we're judging on a different level to how we judge every other centre half. Like Nemanja Vidic ended up on his arse every other week, it felt like, in the Premier League, but he was such a good defender because he was always so ready to put his body on the line for those things. So it didn't matter if he ended up on his arse. Whereas for Virgil van Dijk, we're so not used to seeing him break a sweat that it's weird when we're seeing him, lashing at clearances like he did against Everton, or losing the run of his man like he did against Muniz at Fulham. So all the lads have said it there between Joel and Mike that he's so important to the Liverpool cause. And I think because Mike referenced the mood music too around how it's all gone, we've probably just come over time to accept more that Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be the one who leaves. And because we've accepted that, we now so desperately want to see Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk stay, because they are so important to the Liverpool side. So we can imagine a world now without Trent Alexander-Arnold because we've basically been forced to. I don't want to imagine a world without Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, really. And so I'm glad that this positive update on Van Dijk has come out and sort of almost reassures us that that's hopefully not going to be the world that we have to live in.